Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on ABC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew: Keith Johnson,
I Fly the podcast.
Alan Seiler,
Hi.
and Veronica Dashel.
You stole my line.
I didn't mean to. I
You
froze.
didn't steal your delivery, though. It's still unique when you say it.
Okay.
Exactly.
Hi.
There you go. And welcome back, everybody. All right. Well, tonight we're going to be circling back to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. But first, Keith, do we have some This Week in Trek this week?
I do, and since this is September, there's a whole bunch of stuff, so I had to filter through a lot of junk.
Yeah, that's true. September's a big month for Trek.
Yeah. For those old enough, which I think is most of us, there used to be a time when everything premiered in September. Like all whopping 3 networks had premiere week in September. I just highlighted a few that I thought were really good. Some would just have personal relevance. And also, again, I say this a lot, is if you think back to when this stuff aired, of course, nowadays we're used to so much drama, but at the time, this is a big deal. 21st of September, 1966 was the last day of filming on one of my personal favorite episodes of the original series, which is The Conscience of the King. I adore this episode. I think it's just full of great drama. We've talked a billion times about William Shatner and the meme of him overacting and stuff like that. And I think this is such a great episode because he has really good, deeply dramatic acting, controlled acting. Obviously, it's Shakespearean. I just think it's a great show. And again, I can remember thinking about that premiering like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in 1966 for a science fiction show. That must have been kind of wild.
Yeah, that's a fantastic episode.
Yeah. You know that one, Veronica?
No. Is that the one where he recites the Declaration of Independence or something?
No, it's the Shakespeare one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the one where the guy who became known as Kodos the Executioner, the one who had killed 4,000 people on the colony planet. It's the one where O'Reilly gets poisoned because somebody has like a plastic bottle. You'll have to see it. It's a good one. Really, really, really weird. Really, really weird, funky crossover fact. I didn't know until last year. Hoshi Sato on the series Enterprise, who was the communications officer on the series Enterprise, in Star Trek canon, is written as having been one of the people who is killed by Kodos the Executioner years later. So Hoshi Sato's ending is pretty bad. She gets put to death a few years later.
I was all excited when you mentioned Hoshi. Now I'm not anymore.
I know, right? I didn't know this until recently. Yeah. And then another one, this is classic again, hitting high notes. 1967 was the first draft of what became absolutely classic. And this is relevant because of Spock, Journey to Babel.
Okay. That's a great episode.
Amazing episode. Great action. Has an Andorian, another Andorian, kind of, sort of, an Orion. And of course, Spock's father, Sarek, is there, and Amanda, his mother. Just wonderful, wonderful episode.
Mm-hmm.
Same day, but 7 years later, this is relevant. I think you can guess why. 1974, the animated series The Practical Joker airs.
Okay.
And I know you know what's significant about that episode, right?
No.
Okay. Think about Space Adventure Time show.
Yeah.
Space Adventure Hour.
Recreation Room.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It was what was considered to be the first holodeck that appeared in Star Trek. The recreation/recreation room was shown in there because it could create new environments. I think it created snow, didn't it, in there? Like they were in the Arctic or something like that.
Yeah, and that one, it pretty much just created environments for like a beach and a jungle and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. And so many people talk about, including me, some people talk about sometimes how these prequels change the science versus the original series. But given where we are right now, I'm not mad at the fact that Captain Pike's Enterprise is testing a holodeck. I mean, It's just one of those, they just kind of missed the science. It's kind of like, if you look at TNG, I've always found this funny episode. Remember when Wesley was working with the nanites and they got loose on the ship? Mm-hmm. It was funny because in the episode, Wesley has this huge session with the main staff, and he starts talking about nanites like they're brand new. And then Wesley supposedly did something no one in history had ever done. He had to combine 2 nanites. I'm like, there's no way 300, 400 years from now that's new. So you gotta roll with the science. So mark that down. I gave Strange New Worlds a pass for doing That's a couple of more. 22nd of December, 1960. It's very important because Where No Man Has Gone Before airs. And everybody here knows that this is important because this was the second pilot for Star Trek.
Right.
And also, it's funny, we so often with these new shows, we say pilot, but Star Trek hasn't had a pilot in ages. Those are really debuts and premieres. A pilot technically is something that you have to do to sell a show. And Where No Man Has Gone Before was actually the second pilot, going from Pike to Kirk. And as they say, the rest is history.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I've got, let's see this. Okay, this is just two more because this has to be shown. 24th of September, 1990, and Matt and Elaine can really relate to this. This was the airing of probably the greatest two-part in Star Trek history, and that was The Best of Both Worlds Part 2, where the Borg were defeated. And also relevant to what we're going to talk about tonight because they put them to sleep.
Right.
Yeah. And the last one, I didn't realize this, guys, and this still freaks me out. 8 years ago, yesterday, 24th of September, 2017, that was the freaking premiere of Discovery with the Vulcan Hello and the Battle of the Binary Stars 8 years ago. Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where did the time go?
Flies, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's This Week in Trek History.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. And we've got some comments if we want to catch up with some comments before we move forward.
Mark says, hit it. That's what I was going for. And I couldn't remember what Pike's catchphrase is. And I don't know why I was blanking on it. And I panicked and I said the wrong thing. So thanks,
you just,
Mark.
For... left out the middle two I and T's and just said hi instead.
I love it.
I was close. Good point. I was halfway there, like Bon Jovi. Okay, and Mark says in the original series, he always thought that the Andorian with the heavy Eastern European accent was a great alien instead of all the other aliens that speak American. And I agree with that. And I was kind of thinking, that was the only time we'd ever seen an Andorian at the time. And you think that's what Andorians sound like. But that ended up not being the case, unfortunately.
And cool Vulcans, because T'Pau had an accent also.
Yeah, true. And our buddy Bill has caught us from the beginning.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah, so that's nice. It's good to have you aboard, as all our viewers. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this evening.
Yeah, it's good to have everybody. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about Strange New World Season 3. Now that we've had a few weeks to think about it. And sort of going back over, I guess, sort of the highs and lows and where we thought it succeeded, where we thought it didn't succeed. I mean, where did you guys want to start? Did you want to throw in some general opinions first or favorites, or even think anybody got something fresh in their mind?
General opinions?
Okay.
I guess.
Sure.
Overview.
There you go.
Yeah.
What did you think, Veronica?
It was good. I don't feel like it was as awesome as last season, but I enjoyed it for the most part. There wasn't really anything I disliked, but there was nothing like, oh, wow, that's so awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. It was a fine episode. I think if I go back and rewatch the season again, I will enjoy it. But having seen it through first run, I mean, it's fine. It doesn't stack up to maybe the previous two. And there are very specific reasons for that. And we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was okay. It was fine.
What do you think,
Keith? All right. Keith is not paying attention. Chuck, what did you think of
You
it?
guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You
Can you
guys
hear
able
us?
to hear me? Am I going in and out?
Well, we
can
can't
hear
hear
you.
us, apparently.
I can hear you now.
Oh, well, all
Okay,
right.
good.
What did you think of the season overall, Keith? Chuck, what did you think of the season overall?
Yeah, no, I thought it was fine. It was not as good as previous seasons have been. Yeah, I mean, most of the episodes are watchable, but there weren't the highs like previous seasons have had, and I think they leaned too far into the sort of self-indulgent stuff that I don't think is Strange New World's strength. That they seem to be tickled by, but that doesn't really appeal to me. So part of it is the things that they think they're succeeding at are things that I don't want them to succeed at because I don't really care about them. They're really delighted about the little cutesy references and things like that. And No, I wish they were out there exploring more Strange New Worlds. I mean, I know I complain about that every week, but they put it right there on the title of the show. Let's see some
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't have a problem with ship bound episodes, but you can't have all of them be that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And it wasn't all of them. There were a few times when they did get down to a planet, but it needs to be more. And I know that's more
Right.
expensive,
Especially with
but you've
title.
got that
Yeah.
stupid AR wall. You can make a world anytime you want, So I don't know. I need them to be a little more adventurous.
Yeah, and even when they go to a planet, there's no investigation of the society on that planet. There's no cultures they're learning about. There's no, and oftentimes not even a moral lesson. But I mean, I was just rewatching the episode "Loud as a Whisper" the other day from TNG, and they do go to a planet. They actually go to two planets, and they're both fairly simple setups. One they beam down to, and it's like a like the standard circle of rocks where you can't see that the horizon's fake, and a couple of guys show up with makeup. You know what I mean? But along the way, I mean, it's actually a really good episode. That's one that I don't think gets enough recognition.
No,
you've
you're
got
right about
Reva,
that.
the mediator, and his chorus that come on board. So even when you're not on Reva's planet, you're sort of exploring his planet and culture. And but it's making a commentary about our own planet and culture, because it's very much about representation of people with disabilities and things like that. So and I know now I'm just talking about TNG season 2 instead, because it's more interesting than the whole of Strange New World season 3. And
Right.
I don't think they have to go to a planet every week, but you can, even when somebody comes on the ship, it's oftentimes not someone from an alien culture that is a science fiction story. Oftentimes it's something from the original series that we're seeing again. Or something that's just goofballery.
Right. And I think they leaned a little, I mean, we've talked about this before. They leaned a little too heavily into the goofball angle this year. But when comparing it to Next Generation, this one, there was an episode that, oh, well, he's still having trouble. There was an episode where they went to a planet, but it ended up not being anything other than, I mean, it was a more serious episode. It wasn't a silly one, but it was Klingon zombies. It's still gimmicky to me.
Right. Yeah. And there's no arriving there and learning the strange ways of this culture and telling a little drama story with our characters. They do the drama story part of it, and that's something they seem to lean into. But they're way more focused on, and you commented about this during the season, way more focused on the relationships of the characters than on the Strange New Worlds aspect of the show.
Can you hear me now? I'm back?
Yes.
I'm back?
Yes.
Okay, cool. When you were asking real quick, Charles, I started a rewatch of the series, and I will tell you guys, and Alan, you've mentioned this a lot of times too. I got to tell you, watching Hegemony Part 2, the production value and stuff of that show, it's a phenomenal looking series.
Yeah.
And it's so weird how different that episode feels from even the season ender. That is also a serious episode. I think it's better quality for all my issues with the Gorn. So I do agree. Now, Charles, you mentioned that, and it sounds very interesting. Later on, you had mentioned, you had mused aloud, were they maybe writing this like a last season? And then when I started reading up on it, that's actually the case. They thought season 3 was going to be their last season. So that explains why we'll get to one of the reasons. I just feel that Pike and his original crew, or whoever they are, have been given complete short shrift in favor of Kirk and the company. But it also, because of that and a writer's strike and COVID, the writer's strike and the director's guild strike, they also said, Akiva Goldsman has said they simply didn't have time to write the show the way they wanted to. Now, my only question with that is, if you do abbreviated shows and they're not that good, then frankly, you can also do a relatively lowly produced drama that's good. You don't have to have that many comedies. So I don't know if I buy that completely. You know what I mean? It's just my personal feelings. I think, like you guys said, I think overall it was fine. It's probably the weakest of the 3 seasons, in my opinion. And I do think that the quality goes down from the first episode, gets a little better toward the end with Terrarium. But overall, I think it's a disappointing season for a whole bunch of reasons.
I mean, you make a good point in
Mhm.
that this was a challenging time to be making a new season of Star Trek
Yeah.
when not only the things that you mentioned, but the future of the platform upon which this is being served was in question
Yeah.
constantly. And you
Right.
don't know what's going to happen going forward. And you don't know if the thing that you're producing will make it to air, much less if it'll be the last one that you ever get to do. So
Correct.
it was a weird time. It was a very, I'm sure that they were, just like, don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the, not every season can be, Next Generation season 5 or 4 or whatever the good
Right.
one was, 4, 3, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Not
That's a
every
good one.
season can be
3 through 7.
amazing. Yeah, well, true. Not everything can be Deep Space Nine season 6.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, did anyone have a favorite episode? Since we our overview was a little negative, but did anyone? What was that? What was a favorite episode of Veronica?
I'm debating.
Okay.
So
then-
I like I kind of liked Wedding Bell Blues, even though there's a whole Trelane, not Trelane, kind of Trelane, kind of
Yeah.
Q
Yeah.
thing, which I thought was stupid, but it was very amusing to watch.
Okay.
Stupid but fun.
Right.
Yes.
That's a good
Well, what about you,
description
Keith?
for me.
Did you have a favorite?
This is going to be weird because I don't think there's a single episode. Veronica said something very interesting about Trelane. I don't think there's a single episode this season that's not interwoven with something I really don't like and sometimes despise in terms of what they put. However, I gotta say I really like Hegemony Part 2 because it's such a really done episode. Putting the Gorn to sleep is ridiculous, but it's the action. We talked about the thing with Ortegas, and she's like basically mortally wounded, but I fly the ship. She still flies the ship and all that kind of stuff. But it's still a great looking episode. And once I stopped yelling at the TV about the Gorn, it's still a really, really good looking, well acted. And also, you know what I wrote in my notes looking again last night? It's like, God, I miss Pike being serious and Pike being in charge.
Mhm.
Other than the beginning of the episode, he's frozen for a moment. Pike is in charge in that episode, and that's the Pike I just don't think we see enough of for a whole bunch of reasons. And the other one I think would be up there that might be a tie is I like Terrarium, but it's fine. But I also here we go again with Kirk and company, but I like the Salot that ate its tail. Also, very well done, very well acted. And the fact that I can't stand Kirk and some of them in the series, I can't take away from the fact that it's a really good, well written and well acted episode. I can't knock it down for that. So I think those probably be my top 2.
Well, I messaged you guys a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about doing this episode, and I said, man, I've been like looking back over the list of episodes, and I can't decide which ones I like the most and which ones I didn't like the most.
Yeah.
And it was just a weird season, but I think that I'm kind of settling toward, I really did enjoy Hegemony Part 2. I really enjoyed that episode a lot. I thought it was very well made. And even though I kind of complained about it being a Klingon zombie episode, Shuttleton Kinfori had some really, production wise, it was fantastic. Had some very good character moments for Mbenga, and was really well done. I wish it wasn't about Klingon zombies, but still, it was pretty well done. And the Salat episode, I really enjoyed, and I don't think we need a character backstory for here's how Kirk becomes Kirk. Yeah. But still, it was done well, and I thought the whole cast gave really great performances, and but that we get into that situation again where the emphasis gets shifted a little too much to Kirk, and Pike is not the captain of his own show.
Yeah.
So it's a problematic episode for me.
Yeah.
Right. Chuck, what about you? What's your tops?
I would say it'd be between Terrarium and Through the Lens of Time. Through the Lens of Time, before watching the season finale, I would have said Through the Lens of Time because it was more of a sci-fi story. It was a strange new world. It wasn't relying heavily on something from the original series. There wasn't a lot of, hey, remember this? Hey, remember this? And it was just a good, fun, enjoyable episode. I thought that the finale was sort of like it was almost like a two-parter, but they were just split up. That it really picked up from that episode, and I didn't think that was it was a great finale, and so that sort of drops it in my estimation now, looking back on the season. But then Terrarium, I also liked a lot. It's tied up with the Gorn stuff, of course, and hey, remember this from COS happened several times in that episode.
Oh,
but,
yes, it did.
But something that I've always said on the show is that I love the episodes where it's just two people having some drama. You know, like the Star Trek episodes that are sort of low stakes in that way.
Right.
And this, you get a lot of Ortegas and the Gorn just on the planet, you know, which isn't an original setup. Obviously, that's something we've seen. It's the Enemy Mine setup. We've seen that plenty of times on Star Trek, and we've seen it done better on Star Trek. But I mean, it's Ortegas and the big Gorn puppet, and I don't like that it's a Gorn, but I like that it's a big puppet. And so, yeah, I thought it was pretty. And also, I think it gave Ortegas a chance to shine in a way that she's never had on the show. I thought she was more charming and engaging in that episode than she's been ever on the show. I thought she was fantastic. And the Metron thing is not a good explanation for this whole Gorn thing, because if you think about it for 2 seconds, that they're going to change the perceptions of everyone so they don't remember the Gorn War, it makes no sense. They're not going to remember the thousands of people that have died. Like, would La'an not remember her childhood trauma anymore? You know, like it makes no sense. But I do kind of like it as just a sci-fi concept of like there being these two very different spacefaring species that will inevitably collide with each other, and this more evolved species in between just trying to engineer and re-engineer contact between them so that they can find common ground, and like trying and failing. And you can imagine that maybe this has happened a dozen times, you know, over the past 100 years, that they've been trying and failing to get the humans and the Gorn to meet in a way that will result in them not killing each other. And that, you know, ultimately it's Kirk that is successful at that. And I kind of like that as a sci-fi concept. And I mean, and they learned from it, because obviously in Arena, they made sure the bridge crew could watch what was happening on the planet. If they had done that in this episode, then La'an might not have come out guns blazing and blasted that Gorn.
So that's a good point. I hadn't thought
so
about that.
Yeah, so I think that one holds up in that way. Like I said, of course I'm going to watch it and roll my eyes because it's the Gorn again, and, and all that good stuff. And, you know, but I can't help that. But those two, I think, were probably the strongest episodes of the season for me.
I'm going to add that Terrarium is another favorite because I had forgotten about that one.
Okay.
Yeah, because she does a really good job in acting in there. And I didn't even. And it's so funny. We've talked before about when you grown up, and I grew up, watching original series and old 1960s old sci-fi. So I truly do not care about special effects and production value. It doesn't bother me. To this day, I don't look at the Gorn in the original series and just start laughing. It is what it is. So, well, you were mentioning it was a puppet, Charles. I hate this. I thought it was so good. I forgot pretty quickly it was a puppet, so I give him credit for that. I had some issues with Uhura, and I think our buddy Wayne, who is a Marine, talked about that. Uhura basically, and also I think one of you guys pointed out too, that's also not the way it was handled, because when Ortegas did the thing, and remember in the earlier episode, and number one dressed her down. It's like, look, I don't care if you deal with trauma. You ever disobey an order again, you're out. You're not the ship. And Uhura literally, not only did she didn't just fudge, she lied. She lied to her captain, and she could have had the entire ship killed. And he's like, well, that's a new look for you. I guess I understand why you did, and I would have gone in anyway. That just kind of bothered me, because it's another example of kind of detoothing Pike. And I really like Anson Mount as a powerful leader, and I'm missing a little bit of that. The Metron, I think I told you when we talked about that episode, it almost broke me when I realized it was a Metron. I mean, it really almost broke me. But then Enterprise, no spoilers for Lane and folks, but Enterprise revisited the Ferengi, the Borg, and the Organians, which also irritated me. But it was a good episode.
and the Tholians.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
And a few others.
Yeah. So the
Nausicaans.
Oh yeah. So everybody has a tendency to want to go back to the well of something that works.
Sure, of course.
And I think the OS, by virtue of everything they created, was new. I just wish people would have more courage. I've said this a billion times. I don't love the whole Xindi War and Enterprise, but I give them credit for something new. We've never heard of the Xindi before, and I love that fact.
Yeah.
Nor have
I'm going to throw in. Sorry, I'm going to throw in Through the Lens of Time also. And I wasn't really thinking about that one, but that was a really strong sci-fi concept. They go to a planet, they learn about a culture, they explore its history and its archaeology and all this kind of stuff. And that's the kind of Star Trek I want.
Yeah.
So I think it may, and plus, I will say that I really enjoyed having Ensign Gamble along the road, you know, like just like sprinkled into episodes here and there. Episode 5 was his big one. And I really enjoyed seeing him kind of like develop into that. And then, of course, he became part of the big plot of the season, which was a weird flex. But at the same time, I really enjoyed having that new character who was new to service, new to Star Trek. And I thought the guy playing him was fantastic. And he was a great character. It was a great addition to Mbenga's storyline. And yeah, you're right. I think that is my favorite of the season.
Okay.
I can see that.
Yeah, that was a good one. And like I said, it doesn't rely too heavily on the remember this, remember that stuff that the rest of the season. And oftentimes they're relying on oftentimes relying on things that, I mean, unless you're a big nerd, you don't remember. Like there wasn't a lot of people clamoring for Roger Corby to come back to Star Trek for all these years, you know, like, the Kirk thing I get, because like Kirk and Spock are the things that people remember about Star Trek. But and I was just reading an article the other day, and I can't remember now who wrote it, or I'd give them credit, but they were saying like their take on Star Trek, it's like they remember watching it years ago and don't remember the details, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to people who know very well what happened in the episodes. You know, it's like their recollection of Corby and Trelane and Kirk doesn't make any sense, and the Gorn like doesn't jive with the original series. It's just like if someone watched it when they were a kid, like, oh, I remember this, I'm doing this again. Oh, I remember that, I'm doing that again.
Right. So here's a couple of good comments. Mark is wondering if Hegemony Part 2 was filmed at the end of season 2, and Michael Phillips and Michael Phillips was thinking the same thing. Right. And Wayne says, my head is still spinning from when in 4.5 Vulcans, a fight suddenly turns into a dance routine. I think someone sort of kind of was channeling an Elvis movie. Yeah. And so agreed. I know that they filmed seasons 2 and 3 fairly, I mean, I think on their regular schedule, you know, and 3 was filmed a long time before we actually saw it. But I don't know how closely back to back it was with season 2. I don't think there was a huge break in there, but it wasn't like a continuous production going into, as far as I know, going into the second half of that story. Because they're talking about how, or Michael talking about how they achieved a really good continuity between the two if they weren't filmed back to back.
Veronica's right. The giveaway is Uhura's hair, because they've got Uhura's new hair stuffed underneath her fake old hair. So Uhura has a cone head the whole episode.
And it's and it looks so bad every time she's on the screen. And
they could only have shot her from different angles. I mean, come on. It wouldn't have been as hard to mask that as, you know.
It would have been less distracting if she just had different hair in the following scene. Yes. You know, like if they had just gone with her new hair, it would have been less distracting.
She magically changed hair when she turned into a Vulcan. She magically changed hair. I mean, that's the thing people do. They go to the barber and they come out with completely different hair with more hair.
But not in the middle of a story. In the middle of a battle with the Gorn.
You don't know.
It would have been less distracting than the cone head.
If Moxie Magnus was on the ship, people would leave their post to go. They will not miss an appointment with Moxie.
Right.
It's true.
Let's see. Mark asks, was Best of Both Worlds filmed back to back? It absolutely was not. We talked about this last week. They wrote part 1. They filmed part 1. Part 1 was released. The writers went on their 3-month break between seasons without a concept for part 2. Part 1 was written independently. When they came back 3 months later, they had to think, what are we going to do for a part 2? How do we get out of the situation we set up?
Absolutely.
So no, it wasn't.
Rick Berman said they had written themselves into a corner. They made the Borg so powerful they didn't know what. And then Patrick Stewart was still in contract negotiations, so there was a very real chance that Stewart would have left the show. So they didn't know if they're going to write a death for Picard or not. So they had a lot to think about.
It was very much a Star Trek 3 situation where
Mhm.
Nimoy could have left the role of Spock or come back to play Spock in later seasons or later
Right.
movies. So it could have gone
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're about halfway through the show, so let's take a quick
Already?
break. Yep. And then when we come back, let's get into some of our least favorite episodes because sometimes those discussions are our favorite episode discussion wasn't overwhelmingly positive anyway. So we may as well get into our least favorite episode.
Are you sure you left us enough time to talk about our least favorites?
Right.
All right, here we go.
Look up, look down, look out. Here come the monkeys.
Mickey,
David,
Mike,
Peter,
We're talking about them in Monkeying Around. That's right, Monkeying Around has everything, including
interviews,
episode reviews,
album discussions,
and other incredible surprises.
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
We really need to refresh our ads. We need to come up with a whole set of new ones.
The
True.
Monkeying Around one is so great.
It is. We just need a new monkeying around one.
Oh, right.
Anyway,
Okay. So who's each in to talk about a least favorite episode of the season?
Me,
Okay.
oh,
What is
all
Starfleet?
right.
okay.
what is Starfleet?
Okay.
Because I did not like the concept and did not like the way that things because he's editing this after the fact and he edited it like he was editing an episode that was planned out.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
it and I didn't like the concept at all.
The documentary part.
The documentary part.
Right. Because in that one, I
Yes.
thought it had one of the better sci-fi stories of the season. It
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
told through Beto's terrible documentary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
Um,
honestly made it worse because there was this awesome story going on that we didn't get
Mhm.
because they were focused. on the
Beto
documentary.
Ortega's worst director of the season.
Yeah.
Right.
Veronica, the fan consensus seems to be putting that one at the bottom most often from the little things I've seen because of the things you talked about. And Charles, I've said that I've heard people say they had this really cool science fiction aspect of it, and then they put in that weird documentary. And I agree with you. One of the problems I had with it is I think we talked about there's no way, and we've talked about Babylon 5 and Stargate have done these same types of stories. And the thing is, I don't care what they say, the military, because it is a military, would not have let him just loose there to film like that without either one of Pike's crew or somebody from Starfleet Command basically shadowing him. That's just the way it is in real life military. And also, Veronica, as you said, I didn't even think about this till I was listening to another show review the episode. He'd been on the ship for several days, weeks, or months. But even then, the crappy documentary we got was from one episode, from one specific moment. So we didn't even get all the other weeks and months he'd been around filming. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that one shows where they were having a problem with the writer's strike and stuff like that because it's poorly written for his part. I think they just lost. And another general thing, this is my very personal feeling, but I've said this many times. I haven't looked up all the people running the show. Of course, I know about Akiva Goldsman, and we know about some of the others. I don't know how many of these people are experienced sci-fi writers and not even Star Trek people, but sci-fi writers, because I feel that Beto was some of those people's opinions, which is their kind of divided opinions about what they consider to be colonialism and the United States and Western culture. Because that episode was Beto examining what it is to be powerful. And then you can apply that to Europe. And then he kind of concludes that it's okay. Because they also threw colonialism in there a lot more than I expect from a Star Trek show. So I think that was one that was more clearly, some of them were putting their own feelings about a military and a powerful organization like Starfleet. And I just think it was clumsily handled. I don't hate it, but I don't have a desire to ever watch it again. And that might be the worst thing of all.
Yeah, part of the problem with it has
You
to
go ahead.
have, because it's about Starfleet, it has to have a very happy ending, right?
Right.
They can't conclude that Starfleet is in the wrong, unless our heroes are in the right. But in this case, our heroes are the face of Starfleet. So it'd be
Right.
like if you had a documentary that was like the American Industrial Complex. And
Right.
at the end, it was,
Yes.
but they're all really great people and they're really trying hard. They became a
Exactly.
family.
Exactly. It's hard
Right?
to
Like,
critique
so-
it. It's hard to
Yeah.
critique it when you're critiquing the point of the show. And I really feel the showrunners and writers were critiquing the U.S. military and the Western world. But then, to your point, they had to get the end and go, but it's actually good. And it felt half-hearted. It felt half-hearted, really.
I liked the concept. I thought
Okay.
the idea of somebody coming in as an independent journalist, I'm doing air quotes for the people who are only listening to the recording, coming in and doing an expose on what Starfleet is. And that could have been either something that the Starfleet higher ups ordered to be done because they want to find out what people on the ground think about what they're doing or whatever,
Right.
or something that's released for general consumption. And either way, I think that it could have been a really powerful episode.
Agree.
But I feel like they just lost the thread on it, and they kind of undermined it by having him having a come to Jesus moment in the middle of the documentary when that's not how it would work. That is not how it could possibly have turned out. Now, had they done an expose and everything is all negative, and then he filmed like an epilogue, where he says, after the fact, I came to this different realization or something. I don't know, but they just did it in a way that does not make sense with documentary editorializing. It just didn't make any sense.
Or just go really meta with it and do an audio commentary that's Beto in character, telling it, having his confessional and heart to heart about what this meant to him as the episode plays, and that would have been cute. But yeah, you don't need your documentary end with the documentarian in therapy coming to a big realization with his sister.
Right.
Yeah. That's one episode where I can feel maybe the rush because it needed a second pass, because there's some things in there like the way he treated Uhura made no sense. What he exposed her, like I said, the way he confronted his own sister made no sense. And I think if I come away with anything from that episode that just makes no sense, Spock, a Vulcan, telling what could be an audience of billions that he self-harmed as a child, it just wouldn't happen. I don't know what Vulcans they're looking at. It just wouldn't happen.
So Michael Phillips says, I'm not sure anything this season blew me away. I actually find myself having to look up an episode list to figure it out. And that's exactly what I did when we were coming into planning this episode.
Yeah. And, I agree.
And Wayne says, like I said to Keith, if that character had planned to do a documentary while I was getting ready to take my ship into harm's way, he would have been accidentally left behind.
Well, Wayne again, who is a Marine, is echo. Oh, go ahead, Charles. Go ahead.
Because he continues by saying, because you cannot predict what situations can occur on a mission. Exactly.
Yeah, Wayne. Wayne, who is a Marine, and also looking at recent news, everything from Iraq to whatever. The thing that I do think they missed, and this time I wonder, look, the original series, there were so many people who were in the military, it's insane, right? So many people who were from the military wrote it. And it's almost like they don't know how to write a military, or I really think they don't want to write a military. I think Starfleet is not a military, even like it used to be, because outside of all the other stuff, as Wayne is saying, that's an embedded reporter. And there are ways an embedded reporter is allowed to go along with a group, especially the flagship. And it just wasn't handled. And they did a hand wave at the beginning of the episode. Remember where Pike irritated. Also, Pike was unusually irritated about Beto filming, even though Pike is. It's almost like they made Pike more irritated about Beto being in the way than he should have been. But then he had too much access, because they did a hand wave. Remember where Pike said Starfleet Command basically told him Beto has all access to everything in the story. Leave him alone. And then Pike was mean to him the whole show. That's not how real military filming works. It just doesn't. So I don't know if they don't know how it works in the military, or they don't care how it works in the military for that kind of thing.
Nah, these are a bunch of Ivy League pansies who ain't never held a gun or served in the military in their damn lives.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who write really great military dramas and war films that never served, though.
That's true.
I think the big thing is, it goes back to what we keep saying, is they want to write these character relationships.
Yeah.
And everything else is just dressing for that. So they don't care.
Exactly.
believable the way a military officer acts. What they want is to get to that scene where he's talking to his sister, or get to the scene where he's talking to Uhura.
Right.
And write shorts, where that's all it is.
So to be fair, I don't think any courtroom or hospital or place of business works like it does in real life, like it does in a television 45-minute drama.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be your ex-girlfriend as the prosecutor in your case, and your buddy who's not a lawyer wouldn't be your lawyer in a real court martial. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Sure.
Because those original series guys served, so they know.
Right.
I'm probably I don't know if I'm in the minority of this or not, but for me, the bottom, despite this episode at Beto, is it's the Trelane episode. I despise that thing so much. I never want to see it again. And I don't even care that it's Trelane. It just didn't work for me. Part of it is my very personal distaste for all the Spock emotional, Spock and love stuff. I just didn't care. The humor didn't work for me. Now, a lot of people who don't like the episode are really focused on the fact that it is Trelane, as evidenced by the fact that John Delancey is voicing his father at the end. But honestly, by the time that came up, I was so sick of the episode. I didn't even do my normal Keith Johnson ranting at another callback, because by then I just checked out. And I really don't ever want to watch that again, even though I'm going to watch it again on my rewatch. That's the one for me.
Yeah. I did think Rhys Darby was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Agreed. He was fantastic. I will say, to move on from what we've been talking about, but 4.5 Vulcans. I mean, that's an obvious pick as the low point of the season. But oh my God, it just made no sense, and it was shenanigans for the sake of doing a shenanigans episode.
Yeah,
and I just didn't like it, and I don't think that getting away from the. I get shot with a serum and it changes my hairstyle. I just don't think that turning anybody into a Vulcan is going to make them behave in any of the ways that the characters that we saw, it affected them. It just made no sense. And it was just a terrible, terrible episode.
Before I forget, go ahead, Charles. I have a thought on what Alan said, but go ahead.
No, I was going to follow what Alan was saying too. I was going to say, I considered that one for my least favorite, but I think 4.5 Vulcan sort of reaches Spock's brain or Way to Eden level of bad, but like it's so goofy that it's fun, and they make very bold choices, and nothing in that episode's forgettable. I mean, Pike's hair and their Vulcan costumes and the walking down the. A bunch of Vulcans walking down the hallway to the rap music. Like they went 100% on that thing. Like they didn't hold anything back. So I think it's fun in the way like Spock's brain is fun. I wouldn't put it up against a good episode, but I think it's certainly watchable.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we did that deep dive a couple of years ago on Spock's brain, and there are some really good moments in that episode. There are some things that are unique to that episode that actually worked really well. The premise was stupid, but there are moments that it's really good. And I just don't think there are any moments in this one.
I hate to be this guy, but Alan, what you said made me think of one thing. The original series, even when they failed, sometimes their sci-fi core concepts were cool. And in the 4 Vulcans thing, the sci-fi concept wasn't cool. The genetic engineering serum, because in Spock's brain, they even babbled about how these people had ion power to a level that the Federation couldn't have. The concept of taking an organic brain to put it in a computer, that's a cool sci-fi concept. So it had some cool sci-fi concepts. The 4.5 Vulcans, I didn't see much with it.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so here's a few. Let me get back to the beginning. Here's a few concepts or comments. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, wait, we did that one. Okay, we did that one. Okay, talking about military, Bill asked, can it be worse than the Haiti crisis episode of The West Wing, where they said our embassy was being protected with 400 millimeter artillery out front?
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I never watched West Wing. I'm not really sure about it. Mark says Erica was primed to have a great story arc with her PTSD and her rebellion against authority, and they just fumbled the ball.
Right.
Absolutely.
I will go on record as saying that I agree with that.
Mhm.
The only problem is
yeah.
they had already done a really good PTSD storyline with Detmer, and this would have been a retread, but her like bucking authority, that could have been really interesting.
Mhm.
And I wish they'd done something with that.
Well, I do a lot of Star Trek stuff online after every episode. Like I listen to a whole bunch of review shows. I read a bunch of review shows. I'm into a million different social, groups about Star Trek. One thing that came out of 4.5 Vulcans that completely shocked me because I never thought about it is people have found it incredibly offensive. A lot of people, I mean, significant numbers of people have found it incredibly offensive because what it says about your body dictating your personality. And I am not in touch with the trans community by any means, but a lot of people complain about the fact that when they change to genetic Vulcans, their personalities change to a certain type of Vulcan. Some people find that offensive because it's saying that your body type 100% dictates your personality. And so they didn't like that. I didn't even get that, but trust me, it came up in enough discussions online that I didn't like. And others didn't like the fact that like they're saying that they missed the point of what Vulcans are. But of course, they tried to get around it by claiming that the serum somehow also grabs Spock's personal mental makeup, because Spock is now a logical Vulcan. Because as we know, genetically, Vulcans are not only Vulcans not logical genetically, but Vulcans, I would argue, are the single most violent race in the Federation in terms of intelligent race. They're incredibly violent by nature. They weren't. They were logical. And they got around that by saying, oh, well, somehow Spock's mental engrams got incorporated into that. I never thought about this, and I guarantee Akiva and them didn't think about it because they've addressed it. But a lot of people were mad because they're like, so you're saying your body type dictates who you are. I didn't catch that one. And it was one of those like, wow, I didn't know that was a big deal. And then I think the fact that it was handled badly just makes it worse. But that was an interesting one.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from the fact that they used a serum in sickbay to do it, because the serum that they're using is modified from the serum that was given to them by the transdimensional space wizards or whatever it was last season. So I mean, like I said, but when we reviewed the episode, if Q showed up, snapped his finger, and everybody was a Vulcan, I think we would all kind of accept that because Q showed up and snapped his finger and turned everybody into a Vulcan. And this is the same thing. It's just the equivalent of Q gave them a serum to inject Spock with to change his personality. And then they modify that to turn people into Vulcans based on it. And so, but I think the fact that you lined them up in sickbay and the nurse gives them an injection, it makes it feel more like, they're just biologically changing them, like they're changing their DNA into Vulcan DNA.
Yes,
which makes none of it make any sense.
Yes, exactly.
Like
they're trying to science a way to have this shenanigans episode when if they had a Q character, he could just come in and go, boom, you're all Robin Hood characters, and you just accept it because that's the concept of that character.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I agree with that. And I do wonder, even though I know they thought that this was going to be their last season and all this kind of stuff, but that does, to me, it doesn't change the fact that whether those shows were written well or they had time to polish them, they still did like 3 comedic episodes in the 10 episode season. So outside of the time, I would recommend hopefully they don't do as much comedy next season. And next season's done. Is that right? We talked about that.
Filmed it.
Okay. Yeah. So we will see. I think that was one of the things. I just wouldn't have taken 30% of my shows to be comedic in a 10 episode season. That's me.
Yeah. Well, we know we're getting puppets next year.
What's funny too is there's all these quotes now where Akiva Goldsman is talking about how serious season 4 is.
Yeah.
And so it'll be like, but the only image we have from season 4 is that puppet. And so the headlines are Akiva Goldsman, more serious Star Trek in season 4, with a picture of the Pike puppet sitting there.
That's great.
Funny.
Oh gosh,
that's great. I think that's fun.
Okay, a couple of more comments. Michael Pillar, Michael Pillar.
Michael
He's
Pillar,
one of the show, right? Yeah. Michael Phillips says 4.5 Vulcans was pretty forgettable, except for the dance fight, which was the stupidest thing of the whole season, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mark says in Spock's brain, the landing party materializes, and Kirk says, adjust suit temperature to 72 degrees. Starfleet uniforms can control temperature. Brilliant.
That's right.
That is
They
brilliant,
shouldn't
but
have
how
said
come people can't
72
adjust it to
instead
whatever they
Celsius.
want it to be? Why does he have to say, do it to this degree?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Also, that's an American degree and not a universal degree.
true. That's a good point. Michael says, well, their brains
said
change
22.
too, and your brain does very much determine your personality, or at least the way that and the neurons have been connected does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
True.
but in this case, but I don't have any real insight into the trans community, and I can't even say this, like saying all Black people feel a certain way. I cannot say that. I just know
yeah.
I've heard enough complain about that. But as Charles mentioned again, because I honestly missed it the first time and I had forgotten, I was like, what the heck? And then they like, well, somehow, like you said, Charles, the magic formula somehow carried Spock's basic mental discipline. It'd be like if everybody got injected with me and everybody started talking like me, or everybody got injected with Veronica and everybody started saying hi, or something like that. I think that was the part of it.
Right. And I think one of the things that people are picking up on that's offensive, and I've seen this, the same comments that you've seen, Keith, that it'd be like if someone on a TV show is injected to turn them into an Asian person, and they all of a sudden were falling into cliched Asian stereotypes, right? And so obviously that wouldn't cause that to happen. And I don't think this is a serious enough episode for us to go too far down that rabbit hole. But I can certainly see what they're saying.
Yeah.
So I understand what they're saying, but at the same time, trans is different because that's a lot in your brain and you change your body to match what your brain says. In this case, they were changing their brains so their brains were more Vulcan because their entire being had to be Vulcan because of whatever sensors they had, and they would know if they're just got like ears implanted or something. They had to be truly Vulcan. And that's a whole different thing. And like Michael said, with the way that your neurons are wired, because I mean, like, there's all the neurotypes of humans, and the way your brain is wired makes you think and act differently. I mean, and if your neurons are wired differently, and like if someone has like a brain damage and part of their brain is no longer accessed, their personality completely changes. So,
and probably if someone had brain damage, they would like this episode a lot more too. All right, I think probably
that was perfect.
I think my least favorite of the season would be the finale, because it's for one, it's the finale, and so there's more writing on it. But also, I just thought that it was largely just nonsensical. We watched this whole build up with the Gorn DNA or the Gorn eggs in Batel this whole season, and the ultimate end of that story arc was that she turns into this eternal statue that guards the portal of evil from coming into our universe, which doesn't make any sense.
No,
and that doesn't make any sense that she turns into the statue that guards the portal of evil. I hate they love the idea of there being evil. There's got to be evil in the galaxy. And I think that's sort of counter to what Star Trek does, because time and time again, no matter how evil something seems in Star Trek, you learn to understand it. There was a time the Borg were the most evil thing in Star Trek. And then we started meeting Borg and talking to them and learning that they're actually the victims. And you know, the Dominion were evil until we start meeting Jim Hadar and we start spending more time talking to Vorta and even the Changelings. You know what I mean? So I think that the fact that they want there to be this great, the ultimate evil in the universe, I think it just isn't Star Trek. I think Star Trek's thing is, you get to know the evil and realize it's not evil after all. It's just has a different perspective than you do.
Right. That's a very good point.
Well, they had Pelia say that because Pike didn't want to believe in pure evil. Remember, Pelia basically told him from her 5,000-year-old perspective, there is pure evil in the universe, and you better get used to it, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, so which makes me just want to meet more of these Vezda and find out what the real deal is. Not that we're it's like the Paw Wraiths, and I never liked the Paw Wraiths, right? It's the
same.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not the type of Star Trek that I like generally because it's the magical ancient evil forces. But no, I just thought that the finale was a letdown, and
I agree.
I mean, I'm glad it wasn't the series finale, because that would have
been worse.
Yeah, that would have been a weak series finale.
I think to what you're saying, Charles, one of the things I think what sums up the season for me that I was meh about it also was so many times where I have to give them credit for doing good drama and good acting for a concept that I don't like. And that's a real weird thing. Again, I like Paul Wesley. I'm sick of seeing Paul Wesley, but I like Paul Wesley. And the weird thing was the whole fantasy with Patel and Pike, where they lived the whole life, had children and stuff. It was wonderful. It was beautiful and it was well directed. I don't think it belonged in the episode. It honestly to me felt like they were having their cake and eat it too. They're going to get him into I don't mean to be disparaging, the beat chair, they call it. They're going to get him into the beat chair, but they want to give him a good fantasy too. If I was going to write it, I wouldn't have given them that happy ending. That's me, and that's very subjective. You know, you don't have to. I I think that was a real have his cake and eat it too, and I wouldn't have done that. But it was still a wonderful little 10 minutes or whatever of the episode. But overall, like you, I didn't really care for it that much, and I was actually a little confused. And I think that sums up for me the whole series. Don't like Kirk in the show, but I like the actor and I love the performance. Can't stand the Gorn, but I like the episode with the Gorn. Can't stand the emotional relationship stuff with Spock. That may be the only thing in the episode I don't think is good, period. Spock being a lover. And I got to tell you guys, I went back and watched it. I honestly thought when Spock and La'an were dancing and kissed, I honestly thought that they were still in like a hologram, the holodeck. I thought it was a simulation. I honestly, then I was like, did I miss an episode? Because it came to me out of nowhere so much. It caught me off guard. That was probably my standout bad moment of the whole season. I just didn't get it.
Alan, did you give your least favorite of the season?
Yes.
Okay. Did anybody not? Because we're sort of getting out of time.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
And
all right.
Unfortunately, we've got a stack of comments that all came in like super close together right at the end of the show. We are very sorry that we can't get to every comment.
Yeah.
We appreciate comments, but you know.
Yeah, we really do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I mean, hopefully it'll be next year. It's got to be next year. It's the 60th anniversary. We've got to have Strange New Worlds back next year, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we have hopefully next year. They keep talking like we've started getting the comments from them. Like we said before, that they understand some of the problems that cropped up in season 3, and they feel like season 4 is a much stronger season. So I'm hopeful for that. And I'm looking forward to the next season of Strange New Worlds. I don't think this was their best one, but hopefully next season will be their best one. Alan, where can people find more of you?
Okay, never mind. Cosmic Creative, KOZMICCreative.com.
And how about you, Keith?
You can find me on Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups.
And how about you, Veronica?
How about us, Veronica?
Sure.
Feltnerdy.com.
And?
Monkeying Around, podcast about the monkeys.
And do you have a closing for us?
Hit it.
And join us live. We'll be live and in person this Saturday at Infinite Realities in Tucker, Georgia at 1 p.m. This coming Saturday, the 27th. So if you're in the area of Tucker, Georgia, come out and see us. We'll be doing a live podcast talking about the infinite realities of Star Trek. We'll also have copies of our book. You can get a signed copy of our book if you are so inclined. And if you had a comment on the show, you didn't get to get on there, feel free to come out and shout at us in person, because we'd love to see some smiling faces out there. And it's gonna be a fun time out here at Infinite Realities.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. All right.
And if you're not able to get there, join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. We go live on YouTube, and then after the fact on your favorite podcast platform.
That's right. And for those who participated and aren't watching, please go back and look at our show online when you can, because some of the comments at the end are great. And I'm going to sign mine off with a comment that Wayne put in, which is, "Now we dance."
All right.
See y'all next Thursday.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.